I'll have Dima with me. He's a specialist in one very specific area of travel hacking. So I thought it would be a great idea to ask him if he wants to be on the show. And thank you so much for joining. Do you want to say hi to everyone?
Yeah, hey everyone. Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris. It's been a while. So I know we met way back in 2011. That was actually the first big trip I did using credit cards, miles, and points, and that was the beginning of my around the world trip. And I couchsurfed with Chris in Frankfurt for just a couple of days, but yeah, I guess crazy people like us still keep in touch.
Today we're going to talk about travel hacking. So yeah, travel hacking, that's kind of a weird name, right? I'm not sure who came up with the term of travel hacking, but it basically means how to travel cheaply, right? As far as I know.
Yeah, basically how to hack the system so you can travel on the cheap. Yeah, some people, so some other names people came up with after recent, well, fairly recent newspaper coverage. You know, some people call it the hobby,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's basically travel hacking, figuring out how to go places, whether it's to go places or to even the transportation method, how to save money doing that.
Yeah, I think that's a topic that's really interesting for a lot of people because one of the main, and I'm sure you have the same experience when people know that you've been to so many places and you travel for so long, they ask, "How can you afford this?" And then you kind of let them know like traveling does not have to be expensive. You can travel kind of on a budget. Of course, you have to have a few things that you can't have, like fancy restaurants and stuff. It's just something that you shouldn't do on the road if you want to save money. Um, of course, there's totally nothing wrong with traveling on a high budget if you can afford it. That's like, of course, that's also a very nice way to travel. But one thing that I found really as a big benefit for the budget traveling is the people that you know. Because if you travel around, maybe using hitchhiking, and you get to these rural areas, meeting the locals that maybe never really seen a tourist in their life, it's a complete different experience than staying in a nice hotel and going to nice restaurants. Like the kind of raw experience that you see in these uh, budget destinations, I would say, or not destinations, but rather budget way of traveling. That's what makes it really special for me. I'm not sure what's your how did you get into it, and like what's your main reason to
Yeah,
do it?
I agree. Yeah, my kind of awakening trip was back in 2009 when I went to Europe for about 10 days, and that was the first trip I actually redeemed miles for. But also, I was going to go with a friend of mine, and he had to cancel. So here I was going, oh crap! I always wanted to do it, but going by myself, I don't know. Like I don't know anyone. I don't know the languages. I don't know what's going to happen. And then I found Couchsurfing,
Yeah.
and I think you already talk about what it is, but yeah, I end up meeting up with people in every city I went to, couch surfed in many of the cities I went to, and that really kind of opened it up to me in terms of you don't have to go with friends. You can make friends when you go there, meet the locals.
I'm actually showing the people on the stream my article about keeping travel costs low because I'm kind of using it as a guideline, which we can kind of follow to briefly touch on some topics. And on one of the topics, I'm going to have you as the expert. More on that later. But as you mentioned, couchsurfing is actually the first point on my list here as well. There's really recently been a change in May this year where they started to charge everyone for it. Also on that topic, I have a separate YouTube video as well, and but basically, I'm still going to use it. It's $15, or for me, it would be £15 per year. That's the amount of money you would save easily on just one single night. So I don't like the way they announced it, basically without any pre-warning, and it upset the community quite a bit. But I'm still going to use it. I'm going to check out the alternatives as well. So that would be welcome and trust routes. So I'm going to see if they have more members now and it's actually usable because the past the sites were nice, but if the community is too small, you just cannot simply use it because you don't have anyone to stay with.
Yeah.
Uh,
So,
um,
so after watching your video, yeah, I went ahead and signed up for those two. And on Trust Routes, there are two people in San Diego, and me is one of them. So, yeah,
nice.
not nearly as as much as Couchsurfing. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's tough because they gotta make some money somehow. Yeah, once you can start traveling, I definitely don't have a problem paying for it because I know the value of it. The question is, how many people will actually do it, because then it, becomes kind of the same issue as with trust routes. If there's no people on there that are willing to pay and be on there, then
Yeah.
well, might be an issue.
We'll see how it develops. I will certainly check it out. I haven't logged in on these sites for years. I actually got a few requests, but I never really uh, even bothered to log in there. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they will have more people joining now after the Couchsurfing fiasco, let's say. But Couchsurfing will still stay the biggest site, and it's still one of the biggest cost savers if you want to travel on a budget. Yeah, so Couchsurfing, definitely check it out, or the other websites. Another point that I have on my list here is avoid taxis and try hitchhiking. And I know hitchhiking is not for everyone, right? Especially if you're a solo traveler as a girl, solo female traveler. I can totally understand the concerns about safety. And it really depends where you are, really. Some countries, they're totally fine, even as a girl. Some other countries, I wouldn't really hitchhike as a guy. Let's say maybe Central America or
Like
so, yeah.
USA, yeah.
Yeah, no, well, USA, I would hitchhike everywhere, to be honest. You have to have like kind of a positive attitude for sure. Like, and also don't hitchhike and then don't talk to them, like they pick you up because they're curious about you. They want to see, hey, what's going on? Why are you hitchhiking? Are you crazy? And sometimes they're bored and they're happy to have someone to talk to, especially truckers. So if you hitchhike, you should really do the effort and kind of entertain them, as much as you can. But that's also a good cost saving factor if you don't have to take buses and stuff. Moving on to the next point, avoid restaurants and clubs. I think we don't have to spend much time about that. It's kind of a no-brainer. If you're on the budget, you probably shouldn't, live like you're, at home and you're treating yourself every single day. And also local food, the street food is amazing in many countries. So often it's even better than going to kind of a Western style or a restaurant that caters for Western tourists, and they're gonna give you stuff that you know already. Gonna get your pasta, your pizza anywhere in the world, but with the street food, you probably like often you would look at it and was like, what the heck is that? And you try it, and it's amazing, and it will only cost a few cents. So
Yeah, it's part of the experience, part of
yeah.
trying the culture.
Have you
And I also
eaten?
agree on clubbing and drinking, especially. It also depends how you travel. A lot of people, if you travel for a week or two and just want to go out and have a good time and stay in one location,
Yeah.
that's definitely part of it. When I move around places, like I'm interested in seeing stuff, going on hikes, seeing the city, experiencing the food, whatever. So if I go out and get wasted and sleep until noon the next day, well, I just wasted half a day that I,
Yeah.
could have done it. And you can get wasted at home. You can get wasted anywhere, right? So that's
Yeah.
kind of my attitude about that as well. And definitely saves you money.
Yeah, totally agree. If you if you don't get to that point where you can't remember anything, then you certainly spend a lot of money. But every now and then, it's still nice, and it will happen as well. Like especially with couchsurfing, when you hang out with the locals, it happens quite fast that everyone ends up drunk. Um, so it doesn't mean that you never get drunk when you're traveling on a budget.
Yeah,
But
you just don't need to go to the club and pay $20 a drink to get drunk.
yeah, exactly. That's the point. You can leave that for when you're home and you have a stable income again. Then it doesn't feel that bad as well. Um, yeah, number 4 is booking flights early. So on that topic, I will also have a separate session on some time because you can really uh, go into all the details there, and it's a pretty big part of the travel hacking because there's a lot of tricks that you can use to find good flights. And one of the tricks, let's actually skip number 5, get rid of bad habits like smoking and sweets and coffee. That's like a very personal thing. But number 6,
Yeah,
use a good credit card.
I'm not giving up my coffee and my sweets. That's one sin.
Yeah.
Anywhere I am all about the sweets and the coffee. So
For me, it's just sweets. Luckily, I don't drink coffee and I also don't smoke, so that's 2 big parts. two big addictions that I don't have, but sweet addiction is kind of bad, sadly, for me as well. Trying my best. But here, Dima, now I'm going to need your help because number 6, use a good credit card. So I was basically giving them the tips to find a credit card that doesn't charge you for withdrawals and you can pay for free. And there's a bunch of them online. I actually have 2 of them and I will probably get a third one as well. So you can nowadays, you can even have credit cards that are completely free of charge. You don't pay anything when you go to the ATM anywhere in the world. You don't pay anything to pay anything in the world. And with the new ones, you even get cashback. So the one point where I'm really happy to have Dima on the call now is the one that I wrote here as a tip. Basically, back then, this article is, I think, 3-4 years old at least. I basically said another great way to save money using credit cards is to use a membership or sign up for reward points that you can use to pay flights. Especially American firms seem to love fishing for new customers this way. Worth checking out in detail. I personally never really done it though, because it's primarily a thing for people living in the US, right? You have the best deals over there.
US people love debt. People love getting credit cards and going and buying their big trucks, big TVs, big everything, and then just keeping paying minimum balances due. So the credit card companies, the banks, make a lot of their monies on those fees, on those late fees or interest charges. They make crazy amount of money based on that. So in return, they want people to have their credit cards, but with also so many banks and so many companies pushing those credit cards, they need to somehow get people to get theirs.
Yeah.
So this big sign-up bonuses and a lot of benefits that you mentioned, like no foreign transaction fees, free ATM withdrawals on debit cards, those kind of things are pretty popular. And they have been very popular for a while now. I remember back in 2000s, there's 2 or 3 credit cards that didn't charge foreign transaction fees. Now, I would say probably half of them don't charge that.
Looking up the credit card deals that you have in the US, I was so jealous because they were just crazy. As you said, the competition drove up the offers so much that you would get like so many points, and you were doing a trip for like $360 or something over the, like, I don't know, how many continents that included?
Yeah, so that was the trip that we met on. My first kind of big redemption. I was able to get a round the world ticket for $368 in business class.
Business class.
Just using points from 3 credit cards. Yeah. So you've met me, but folks that haven't met me, I'm 6'8" or 2 meters 4 centimeters tall. So I'm pretty tall. So for long flights, I would not be very comfortable in economy. So that's kind of been my big reason to play this game, is so I can actually afford to fly business class on these longer flights, just because I really do need that legroom. A couple hours, I can suffer in economy, but my knees are literally embedded in the seat in front of me, and that's in the US. Like Ryanair with 28-inch pitch, I can't even fit in there.
Yeah.
I remember flying Vueling, and I couldn't even pay for the exit row seat for some reason. I guess they were all booked out and whatever. And I literally could not just like fit my knees in there. I had to like spread them out. And I think there was someone in the middle seat, so they didn't really appreciate that. But
having your knee on them.
So it's tough. So I've been playing this miles and points game, and getting a lot of sign-up bonuses, and using them kind of to my advantage to get the business class seats for special long trips.
So you would primarily use them for the actual flight on business class, right? Or also for other benefits, like, I don't know, hotels or
primarily for
else?
the flights. So as we've talked about, I don't really care too much about hotels. So I do have some credit cards for hotels. The problem with hotel credit cards is that, unlike airlines, they're not really standardized. So, and airlines are also kind of switching away from that. But for a while, the airline redemptions were fairly the same. So if you have 25,000 miles on United or on American, it's a round trip in the US kind of thing. One way to Europe and economy was 30,000 miles pretty much in any program. But when you looked at the hotels, they were just like totally different redemptions. Yeah, it was completely a mess. So I used it a little bit. I used a little bit of hotel points. For example, when I went to Norway in Scandinavia,
Uh-huh.
right? I used some of the points to book hotels there. And I've used points here and there. For example, I had a really good redemption in Hong Kong for my birthday a couple of years ago. I booked a Grand Hyatt Hong Kong. And
Nice.
talking about what else I do with credit cards besides points,
Mhm.
you also can get status. So I was able to match to the top level Hyatt status from one of my other cards. And with that, you would get a free upgrade to a suite. So I booked with points plus cash. So I think I spent about $140 and then got upgraded to a suite overlooking Hong Kong Harbor and the Victoria Peak.
Nice.
And it was something, I want to say something like $1,500 a night
Oh my
suite that
God.
I got for $140.
Yeah.
So that was a good redemption. But
That,
yeah, in general, I don't really play hotel games. For me, it's more about the miles, more about the flying.
but being in a hotel like that just for one night must be such a nice break into the normal situation of couch surfing, you know? Just treat yourself for a night.
Yeah,
Yeah, that must be nice. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I use that sometimes after I've been on the road for a while. So, for example, in Nepal, I went to Nepal. I spent a couple of weeks tracking to the Everest base camp. Then I came back to Kathmandu, flew over to Pokhara, spent a few days there, and then when I came back to Kathmandu, I had one night left, and I was like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I don't care. And I used, I think it was also Hyatt actually points. They had a really cheap redemption at Hyatt Kathmandu there. So I was like, okay, it's fancy, it's ridiculously not local,
Yeah.
but I don't care. I just want peace, quiet,
Yeah.
lounge access, and
Sauna.
yeah, nice pool, and so yeah, sometimes I use it to just kind of relax, recuperate, I guess.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's more of a niche kind of thing versus flying. Yeah, for flying, I always try to book business class flying long haul, and for that it's miles only.
Mhm.
There's no way I'll be paying for those tickets in cash.
Yeah. Yeah, so I want to dive a bit deeper into that. I opened your website now and I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger on the stream as well.
Okay, this was actually my around the world ticket. So that was around the world ticket. This was with the United Miles. So each well, not necessarily each company, but many companies provide these round the world tickets that you can buy either with cash or with miles. And they all have very different rules. So for United, for example, for the around the world flight, you get 5 stops that you can spend as much time as you want as long as you complete the whole trip within a year. You can have up to 16 flights. So, when you're connecting and all that kind of stuff,
Ah,
and you have to keep going in the same direction. So you have to pick either you're going east or west,
okay.
and technically you cannot backtrack, you cannot cross the same country twice. Um, and yeah, so this what you're showing right now, that was my just around the world ticket. So my stops, for example, were Europe. So Frankfurt was my first stop. So I flew into Frankfurt, and then I actually bought a ticket and I flew to Ukraine for a month. Then I came back to Munich, went through Switzerland,
Oktoberfest.
and
I remember
yeah,
that.
that was like 2 months I spent in Europe before I had to hop on the next flight. And that's when I came back to Frankfurt and couchsurfed with you for a couple days.
Ah,
And at that point, I picked up this ticket again and flew down to
Coburg.
Johannesburg, which was my other stop. I spent about a week in South Africa. My next stop out of all of these was actually Manila. So I flew to Cairo, I flew to Dubai, I flew to Bangkok, but all of those were just stopovers. So
Ah,
they were not
okay.
really stops.
Yeah.
But as we've talked earlier, I've used those to my advantage as well because they don't count stops less than 24 hours as actual stops. So Cairo, for example, I flew in and at I think 5 in the morning, and I timed my next flight to be at
Nice.
9 in the evening. So I had a full day to spend in Cairo. So went all over the place. Same thing with Dubai. I got to Dubai at like 4 in the morning. I think I remember I had to hang out at the airport for a couple hours until the metro started running. And then I went and went around Dubai, went to Burj Khalifa, met up with a friend of mine at Dubai Marina, and then came back to the airport in the evening and flew to Bangkok and on to Manila. And actually from Manila, I had a purchase flight down to Boracay Island. So that was what, 3 days of flying.
Yeah, that's
That was a
crazy.
lot of flying to get to Boracay.
So I wonder what happens if you, let's say, you're not flexible, right? You can't just change your next destination. It's kind of fixed, I guess, huh?
You could change. So, for example, when I got to after Boracay, I went all around Southeast Asia, and then I got to Chiang Mai in northern Thailand. And my next trip was going to be in a few days. I was going to fly to Bangkok and continue on that trip to Sydney. But I really liked Chiang Mai so much that I decided, I want to stay here longer. So I actually, for that remaining portion of the trip, I had to figure out how to push all of those flights back. And the problem with flights when you book them with miles, you typically don't have access to any available seat on those flights. So they only make a subset of seats available on any flight to be booked with miles. So I had to actually search for availability, a couple months down the road. Can I find something from Bangkok to Sydney? Can I find something from Sydney to whatever else I was going after that? So it actually took me a couple of days, to do the changes going forward. So, but to me, like you said, you do a lot of planning ahead of time. I don't typically do that as much planning as far as what I'm going to do and actual places I'm going to visit. To me, the fun part is playing with these flights, trying to figure out like all of these different connections.
Similar. It's also kind of planning, right?
All of that, yeah. So to me, I love that kind of stuff.
So Dextro is just saying one word: exhausting. Is it exhausting?
Yes, it could be. Yeah. If you don't care about flying, if you don't care about different airlines, if you just want to get from point A to point B, and you want to fly on Christmas, and you think you're going to get miles and that's going to save you money to fly on Christmas because that's when tickets are expensive. Well, no, you won't be able to take advantage of that because airlines are not stupid either. Around Christmas, they can sell all their flights. So typically you can't even find any award availability around that time. And if you can, it might be, if you want to fly from San Diego to Frankfurt, it will not be the direct flight on Lufthansa. You might have to go from San Diego to Houston on United, then maybe to Denver, then maybe to, I don't know, Zurich, and then finally to Frankfurt. So you have to be very flexible in your time and also know how to even book something like this.
Yeah, it's kind of like an art already to kind of figure everything out, have an overview of all the best deals, combine them all together. And you were actually, like, on your website, you basically described you got hooked, right? And then if we just scroll down, we're seeing way more of these kind of trips. So you kind of repeated it over and over again, right? You really used the system to the edge.
Yeah. So if you keep scrolling to the next, this one is the one I was very proud of. So
the rules.
The other thing was miles. When you book with miles, you gotta learn the rules. So when you book with miles, a round trip ticket is not necessarily meaning you just go to one place and come back. So it's actually, again, using United miles, the way they define round trip with miles is you can fly to one place, that's your stopover. Then you can fly to another place, that's your destination. You can spend as much time as you want in either of those places and then come back. And then on top of it, you could also have what they call an Openjaw, which you fly into one place and depart from another place. So you could really fit 3 destinations on your round trip ticket. But I took it to an extreme with that. I don't know if you go back to the map that showed the Northern Europe.
Is it this one here?
That was, this one. So this was actually one redemption. This was my round trip ticket.
This is Svalbard, or is it Svalbard?
Yeah.
Oh man, so it's so expensive to get just there alone. You pay like $500.
It didn't cost me basically anything. I booked all of this was in business class, and my Oslo was less than 24 hours. So I flew in the afternoon and flew out the next day. I don't know if you know Chris Guillebeau, but he finished visiting all the countries, and he
Yeah.
had his end of the world party on his 35th birthday in Oslo. So
Ah, you
I
tried that.
attended that, and
Nice.
then I went to Tromsø, Troms, I guess if you pronounce it correctly,
Tromsø.
and couch surfed there. The next day, flew up to Longyearbyen, spent the day there, came back to Tromsø for a day, went to Trondheim for a day, and finally ended up in Bergen. And that was my first actual stop on that trip. Then I had an Openjaw. I spent about 2 months traveling around northern countries, and then within Europe was my parents. So we did Paris, Rome, Barcelona. And then again, I picked up the ticket in Barcelona, went to Lisbon for a day, got to Toronto, spent 2 weeks in Canada, and then finally got home. That was my round trip ticket.
But
In
you didn't have time to see the polar bears, or in Svalbard, or did you do
in
that too?
Svalbard, yes, I did not see any polar bears. It was April, so you had to go out of town. You had to go on like one of the, I guess, safaris or whatever you call it there.
Is it still worth
But I
it?
did go out and did some dog sledding, so that was pretty
Ah,
amazing.
nice, nice. Yeah, I've done it in Greenland. That's actually Greenland looks so big on this map here. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
smashing Europe like 5, 10 times.
yeah.
Oh,
I've yet to go to Greenland, so that's definitely high on my list.
it's
But yeah,
amazing,
if you
man.
scroll down, I think I had the actual cost of that ticket. So I used 100,000 miles to fly in business, and if you scroll down, maybe there should be a dollar value as well for how much I actually paid. It's probably
Oh,
just a couple $100, I'm guessing.
you can see a
Uh,
picture here with the leg space for business class.
yeah, yeah. So somewhere in there. But yeah, I remember it being also around $300 total.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's
yeah.
pretty crazy. But wait, you basically flew over, and how's the Portugal and Spain part involved in that trip? How did you end up there as well?
So that's the open jaw. So open jaw
Ah,
means you
okay.
fly into one place and fly out the other. So I flew into Bergen in Norway, and then I flew out of Barcelona 2 months later. And then
Ah,
Lisbon, again, I originally
stopover.
I was going to just fly from Barcelona to US, but it's like, well, hold on, I can fly on Tap Air Portugal to Lisbon and then fly to US and spend the day in Lisbon. So I'm going to add that in there. And with that itinerary, I actually broke United rules.
Oh, really?
So it's actually not a technically illegal itinerary, but
Hopefully they're not listening to this podcast. Ah, it's too late now.
but yeah, I mean, it's just the Longyearbyen one. It was also a just a layover for me, even though it was more than 24 hours.
Mhm.
So technically, by their rules, it should have been a stop, but I already used up all my stops. So I called United. I called them a couple of times, and I was like, "Please, can I have it? Because I really want to go."
You begged for it.
Um, yeah, yeah. It's a really cool place. I used to work for a company that made navigation equipment for airplanes, and we actually had a project with Norwegian Air Force, because when you go that far north, the way you navigate, whether you use true north or magnetic north for your reference, actually matters,
Mhm.
because back at those high altitudes, the differences are significant. So you really got to be on the ball of what you're using. So that's how I learned about that place. And when I was going to Norway, I was like, wait, I want to go up there. So I called United once, and they're like, yeah, you can't. I was like, okay, yeah, I know, thank you. Called them twice, and then I remember it was kind of like midnight or 1 a.m. and I was like, I'll try again. And then I start dialing, and then I hang up because I was like, I shouldn't be pushing my luck. I already got all of this. But then I was like, whatever, I'm gonna try it anyways. And I called them up, and those folks working midnights, they're bored, right? Unless they have some major crisis, they have to rebook people or whatnot. They're
Yeah.
just there. Nobody calls them. Nobody talks to them. So I called, and again, I explained myself. This is what I'm trying to do. Is there any way? She put me on hold for a little bit, and then she came back and she's like, "All right, I added to your itinerary." And I
Nice.
was like,
It's similar
"Yes."
to border control. Sometimes they won't let you through and then you just go to a different lane. It's always up to like the mood of the person in that moment, you know? Maybe they have a bad day and then you try again with another person and you get through the border.
That's interesting. I never experienced that. I had
No?
I had some different experiences based on different passports I tried to use, but but not just
One guy, he
just
didn't like
people.
me. Somewhere in Central America, I can't even remember where exactly, but I talked to him. I even talked to him a bit in Spanish, gave my best, and for some stupid reason, he wouldn't give me the stamp. And yeah, but I had to cross the border. It's not like I can just turn back again. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
that's
tough in a lot of these places that are kind of in the middle of nowhere, and especially if you don't have internet or whatever. If they just decide to go on a power trip and tell you, well, no, you can't cross with this passport. How do you prove to them that you can?
yeah,
Right. So it's an interesting part of traveling as well.
yeah. But like when I read about like this is the post that I saw back in the days, and I was so jealous of how you can do that stuff. Um, but how's the situation right now? Like, I know 9 years ago it was really good, right? They had so many great offers. It's not the same anymore right now, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not. So back in kind of 2012 timeframe, 2012, 2013 is when banks really decided to try to sell these credit cards. And what they came up with was these affiliate programs. So if you had a blog or if you had a YouTube channel or whatever, and you promoted those credit cards, and somebody would apply with a credit card with your affiliate link, they would pay you, sometimes hundreds of dollars for every approval. So almost overnight or within the next couple of years, all these travel expert blogs sprung up to teach you how to fly for free. Just apply for credit cards using my links. And,
Yeah.
I'm not going to name names, but probably some of the most known points and miles blogs that masquerade as travel blogs, they're all kind of terrible in that way. You read an article and it's just like 20, 30 credit card links in one article, and a lot of times they're not even the best offers out there. It's the offers that they pay them commission.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So a lot of that stuff became popular, and then of course the press got involved. Some of those bloggers got interviewed by Wall Street Journal, all these big newspapers, and a lot of people start getting into it, and it's not really sustainable, right? It's travel hacking. It's not a mainstream traveling
Yeah.
kind of thing.
It shouldn't
The
be.
more
It should
people
be
do
hard.
it, yeah, it's hard, but it's also not very sustainable, right? So if a lot of people do it, if a lot of people figure it out whether it's hard or not, it's just not going to work. So that's kind of where we are now. The last couple of years have been pretty bad in those terms. Back in the golden days, you could apply for some credit cards just every couple of months. Citi had this deal which I never took advantage. That was before I got involved with it, so I still have kind of regrets I didn't start sooner. But you used to be able to apply for Citi, American Airlines credit cards. Every 60 days, you could get two personal cards, and every 90 days, one business card. And with all of those, you get somewhere between 30 and 50,000 bonus miles. So, and back then, those would also count toward your what they call it, life mile status or whatever. So you basically could get a gold status for life by getting 1 million of those miles.
Yeah.
And I think I got like 2 of those credit cards,
You
so
need a
I
big
missed out
wallet.
big time on things like that. So yeah, the last couple of, so where I was going with that, so now Citi is very bad about those cards. You can only get one sign up bonus on American Airlines cards every 48 months, so every 4 years. So forget about every 60 days kind
Yeah.
of thing. So it's a lot harder to get bonuses. It's a lot harder to spend money to get extra miles. So yeah, I still do bonuses here and there, but it's definitely not nearly as crazy as it used to be. I used to apply for half a dozen credit cards every few months and get lots and lots of miles. Back in 2011 when we met, that was the first time I quit my job to travel. And then I did it again in 2016 because I accumulated over 2 million miles.
2 billion
And
miles.
yeah, and I wanted to use them because if you don't use them, they're kind of,
Expiring?
they just sit there, right? It's not
Oh.
money. You don't get any interest or anything. So I quit my job again and traveled around. This time I actually flew some first class flights just to check out all these fancy schmancy flights. Again, usually I fly business just because I'm more interested in legroom. But I was like,
Yeah.
I have so many miles, why not?
You can have a
And
bet.
say what?
if you can have a bed during a flight.
Yeah, it was fun to check out, just like
Yeah,
the Grand Hyatt in Hong Kong.
yeah,
No way I'd pay for something like that, but hey, when I can get a ticket for that Hong Kong trip for my birthday, after staying Grand Hyatt, I flew first class on Cathay Pacific to Los Angeles, and normally that's a $15,000 ticket one way. And I booked it with miles, so I think I probably paid under $100 for it. So
that's
first class
crazy.
lounge in Hong Kong, you don't just get a shower, you get a champagne bar, and you get a cabana, this private room with a big bathtub and a couch you can relax
Wow,
on
in the
and
airplane.
just enjoy yourself before you even get on the plane.
Wow. No, but I
So
like the point you made that it's like there was like a golden age of it, you know? It's very similar to other like stock photography, for instance. Sadly, like I'm into it now, but when I just read about people that are doing it for like 20 years and they're telling me like 15 years ago they were making like so much money, but now it's just oversaturated. As soon as a lot of people find out about it and do it as well, the people offering these good deals will obviously they're not stupid. They're also making money with it, but they won't be able to maintain the same kind of bonuses. And I think a good takeaway here is to just be aware of the fact that that stuff exists at all, and perhaps in the future there will be other ways of travel hacking. You know, so this was just a great example where you could really give us a lot of detail on how to use the mileage program. But and even that's not possible anymore in the same extent. There might be other stuff happening in the future, so just beware. There are ways to save money. It's a lot of stuff requires a lot of work and research, so it doesn't come for free for nothing. It's not like people are throwing money at you. Hey, take these free flights, take this. You have to actually earn it in a way. Um, and
yeah,
I
and there's
think,
other stuff besides actual flying, right? So I think you alluded to that beforehand as well. So miles is definitely the biggest thing of playing the credit card game, but also the benefits of the credit cards provide. So for example, lounge access, right? So that I've used quite a bit as well. I love lounges. I get to the airport early and go grab a bite, or after especially those one day stopover when I go out and just run around the whole day, and I get to the airport, go to the lounge and take a shower. That's always nice. Or after an overnight flight, that's my favorite thing to do after an overnight flight. If I have lounge access, go in and take a shower, and immediately you feel so much better. You're refreshed, you're ready to go, you're ready for this whole
yeah,
day of running around instead of just being very zombie-like.
yeah, you
Um,
kind of need that, I guess.
so, so yeah, those kind of things definitely matter.
For the YouTube guys, thank you so much for watching. Scroll down. I think I should start mentioning it's really nice if you would like it and comment and stuff like that. I never done that before, but I think that's how a proper influencer would do it.
Do
But
the influencer part.
yeah, no, I think like if you would like it, you will like it anyway. I don't have to tell you. But please check out Dima's stuff. I will post his link into the description as well. Really cool guy. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope to see you again next year in
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I'm
Santiago.
looking forward to next April, and yeah, I'll definitely join you for a little bit of PCT.
Half a day, 24 kilometers.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys. Have a good one.